All right, good morning, guys. Hey, excited to get to have you guys learn from Ellery today. So let me
Yeah.
just do a brief introduction. So Ellery is in charge of or oversees all of the office administrators. So from each of the offices, any of the transaction coordination and things that are going on and overseeing the transactions, she's in charge of all that. So she's very familiar with Dotloop, so not as excited about training it necessarily, but appreciate that she's willing to do that. So anyway, so I'm going to turn it over to Ellery, and she's going to walk you guys through and teach you what you need to know about getting up and running with Dotloop. So with that, take away.
All right, welcome everybody. Hopefully, as we move along, if you guys have any questions that come up, wave your hand or I don't know, send a note and we can pause and discuss. But I went in to pull up what I've usually used as our trainings, and they've now subdivided it into smaller sections within Dotloop. So I'm going to use it as a baseline, and we'll go through, and as questions come up or there are maybe some things we do slightly different within our brokerage, I'll pause and we can kind of discuss. So we'll just jump right in. Here in Dotloop, it took me a minute to get to where their training section is. I swear they move it every month or two. Typically, if you're in Dotloop and you go up to your profile, down underneath where your profile is, which if you can see on mine, I have profiles.
We're not seeing your screen.
Oh,
we're not seeing your screen yet. Yeah, you got to share.
Let me, my share screen is right here. And share. All right, you got it now?
Yep, now we can see it.
Okay, sorry about that. So when I hit my drop down, you can see, like, here's my personal profile. And down at the bottom is Help Center. You can click in there and go into the Help Center and navigate around in there a bit. And you should be able to find what you're looking for in training videos and that kind of thing. Russ, how do I move my share screen to the bottom? Is that a possibility or no? Or here, I'll just
I'm not sure what you mean.
Let me do this. And then I will click back over and share my screen again. All right, there we go. So we're going to go ahead. I will queue up videos and we'll go from there. So let's start with how to customize our account settings. And this is just when you very first are introduced into Dotloop and working in Dotloop. This will give us an introductory of how you can set it up. I'll add little bits of input as we go through it. If it wants to play.
If you're logging in for the first time or have had a Dotloop account for a few years, it's a good idea to check your My Account section and make sure everything's filled out there so that it will autofill your documents. To get to your My Account section, navigate to the top right of your screen and click on the drop-down. This drop-down is home to a few things, including the link to your My Account section. You can see your profiles here broken out by agent and admin, a link to our help center, our phone number, and your member ID. If you do ever have any questions, you give us a call or you email us, reference that member ID so we can verify your account. From here, we'll click on My Account. Now this is where we can fill out all of the information that's going to be the same from loop to loop. Our name, our phone number, our company, and scrolling through, you can see all of the details that we need to fill out here. And these details will help autofill our documents. All the way at the bottom of account settings, if we scroll down to the address section, this is where we can designate our country and our time zone. This will make sure that our activity log is tracking the correct time and all of our signatures and initials are showing the correct date and timestamp. Don't forget to click Save. Scrolling back up to the top, we are going to move from account settings to profiles. In the profile section, there is still some more information to be filled out, like license numbers, office ID numbers. We can also add our association to our account here and fill out our company information. Now down at the bottom of profiles will be notification settings. So what would you like to be notified about via email? And what would you like to see notifications about on your Loops homepage? Will be right here at the bottom. And again, don't forget to click save.
Right there, I do want to point out, there are key things in here that you'll want to make sure you do have checked. I know you'll get inundated with all kinds of emails and messages if you have everything checked, but for sure something you'll want to have checked is if your office sends a message, writes a note about a loop or a document, you probably would really not want to have the compliance status of a loop updated. You probably would want if a document was signed or your signatures required. Daily task reminders only if you get into using task lists is that one super applicable. But for sure, make sure that you do check when the office shares a note, a review note about a document or a loop. That way you'll know when your attention is needed from a compliance standpoint. Hopefully that makes sense for everybody.
Now let's go through what else is hanging out here at the left-hand side. We have document preferences. If you create your own interactive documents from your agent profile, you can use these document editor preferences, and this is how the text will show up. We can set up our messenger notifications. If you are not working from a premium account, you can upgrade your account if you need to. And see any integrations or apps that will work with your Dotloop account.
And we are on a premium
Most
account.
importantly, though, just make sure we fill out that account settings section and profiles, and you are ready to start creating loops.
All right. Now, Russ, I don't know if I have the capability to unmute, but does anyone have questions or comments about that section?
I have it set to where they can unmute themselves.
Okay,
So
perfect. All right. Well, we will jump right in if no one has any questions, and we'll get to how to create our first loop or transaction. Once again, if things come up, make sure and holler out so I know we can pause and discuss.
When you're ready to create a loop, just go over to the right and click Add Loop. The first step to adding a new loop is to name it. Now, if you're working with a listing, you'll want to name the loop the property address. If you're working with buyers, go ahead and name the loop the buyer's names. You can always change it to the property address once a property has been chosen. This allows you to have one loop per closing instead of multiple loops per closing. I'm going to name my loop after my buyers, Bob and Betty buyers. Once my loop is named, we'll click Continue on to the loop template. Now, I'm only going to have loop templates available if my office has created them for me.
We do have templates available. If you're newer to our company or to the real estate transaction process, I would suggest that you always select either the buyer or listing. We also have buyer or listing blank loops that do not come with placeholders, but placeholders can be really advantageous to have in place because it helps give you a visual of the absolute minimum documents that are required in that loop. Also, it gives you like a naming capability. If you upload a purchase contract, you can drag it and set it on top of the Rep C placeholder and it will rename it Rep C, rather than if it was like a scanned name, something like that.
Next up, I can add a photo. You can add a photo of the property or of your clients. And then once you click done, Dotloop's going to create the loop for you. Let's go ahead and view the loop. Now I have a place to work with Bob and Betty and add documents, add Bob and Betty to the loop, and add any necessary tasks.
All right. Pretty straightforward, simple. Has anyone had the opportunity to jump in and create loops on their own or played around with that a bit?
I played around with it, and what I've struggled is actually I cannot get a lot of the documents to pull up.
Okay.
I'm like clicking on it and it says add file. I just can't. I don't know what, I'm sure it's something I'm doing wrong, but I mean, some of them are even saying save to the computer. I'm like, sure, why not save this document to my computer? And I can't get it to do anything.
Okay. Well,
And I can get,
we can go into the segment that talks about adding a document. One key thing to note, whenever you're adding a document, it always has to be a PDF. So that's
Okay.
one thing to make certain of. So this first little piece, just you create your loop. Now we can jump into where we actually pull in and add the documents and start to set them up.
okay,
And as we go through that, kind of watch closely. I can pause and let's jump into, maybe we can pinpoint where you're getting like stuck with that.
absolutely.
We'll go to, let's do how to add a static PDF to the loop. And then at the end of that, let's pause and see if we can figure out what's going on that's being a struggle for you.
Begin adding documents by choosing the method you wish to add documents to your loop. In this video, we're going to add from our computer using this browse block. Once I click on browse, that will allow me to view any documents that I have on my computer that I can add to the loop. Once uploaded, I can just click right on the name to open. And instead of getting the autofill window, like I might with an interactive document, I have more options to choose from here at the top. Under File, I can print or download this document. I can split or rotate it if it needs a little sprucing up. Underneath the Add dropdown, I can choose options to make this interactive, like adding a signature or initial box, text, or strike through. If I scroll down to the bottom, let's say I can add an initial there, and then make sure I come up here to the top left and assign it to my client. I can also scroll down to the next page and add a signature block if I need to. And then I can assign it to myself. I'm able to sign this document just as I have it open. I don't need to send it to myself. I can just click sign now and it will grab my e-signature and initials from my account section, and I can just adopt and sign. If we go all the way over to more, we have things like messages, showing our tasks, and we can also go into the document history. We're only on version 1, but as we create more versions, this history will get larger and larger so we can see all past versions and movements on the document.
I want to add right there that history is really useful when you have maybe shared a document to an agent on the other side and you want to see if they've had the opportunity to hop in and view it. You can go to that history and it will show when they opened and viewed it. So it is a really useful tool.
Then if they're like, no, I haven't seen it. No, I can tell you have.
You can say, it looks like you viewed the document this day at this time. And then, you know, it's a great journaling history tracking system.
Hillary,
Okay.
Hillary,
Yes.
this is Ginger. Before you go on to,
Yes.
I've had, you know, a lot of experience with Dotloop. One of the things I just learned was that split document feature under File that's been very helpful.
Yes.
Because oftentimes the agent on the other side will send back multiple documents in one PDF. And
Mhm.
so split document means I can split apart the Rep C from Addendum 1, from Addendum 2, from the FHA-VA addendum, for example, and I
Yep.
can take that one big large PDF of multiple documents and split it into the different placeholders that you have, the way that Century 21 likes it done.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the nice thing, you can break it out by page count and name the documents right in the process. It's very helpful. Once you've done that, you can also move the documents around and organize them, and we'll get into that as well. Thank you for that, Ginger.
I'm not ready to share this document, and we're going to go back out of the document to talk about archiving and unarchiving. If it turns out you actually don't need this document in your Bob and Betty buyer loop, you can come over here to the 3 dots and archive. It's now been swept under the rug, and we don't have it here with our other documents. If I need to, though, I can click Show Archived, and I can bring this document back by unarchiving, the same way I archived it. And then I can click Hide Archived and see the document there in the list again.
So that's a super useful tool when you're wanting to clean up your loop. But if you ever accidentally archive something that you still need, you can always go back and find that in the archive section and unarchive. So hopefully that's helpful as well. Any questions or comments on that? We're good? Okay. Let's get into how to add an interactive document in Dotloop. This has to do a lot with our templates. Super useful, and you'll enjoy it once you get into using it and learning how to use
Begin
this
adding
tool.
documents by choosing the method you wish to add documents to your loop. In this video, we're going to add documents from our templates. Documents added to your loop from your template section are often interactive documents, meaning they will autofill for you, and they have fields already placed on them for you to fill in or sign. These documents are typically inherited from your brokerage or association.
So here in Utah, if you go into that segment that she showed right there at the beginning, the add from templates, the place that the majority of, like nearly every document that we have on the MLS within our company, anything you can imagine or be in need of, resides under all C21 and MLS forms. So if you notice here, she has an inbox and then hers and then version documents, version now. Instead of version now, ours are called all C21 and MLS forms. So you can go in there, and I'm guessing she'll get into the search function too, and you can search a name to find a document in that list. I found when you're searching, less is more. So if you're looking for seller's disclosures, I would type disclosure and look at the list that it pulls up. If it's named with, you know, sellers with the apostrophe or anything of that nature and you miss that, it won't pull it up. So what, like I say, when you're using that search bar, less is more. It helps you find more options. So as we get into that, if we have questions, you guys holler out.
When I was doing that, like I wanted to do a buyer's agreement, right?
Yes.
And when I would click on it, it wouldn't bring up a buyer's agreement. It would bring up an addendum to it. And so I would search through and I was like, I can't find it. They were all just addendum to it. That's
So
why
you
I was
were
like
looking for
struggling.
the buyer broker agreement?
Yeah, the buyer broker agreement. And it was always an addendum to buyer broker agreement every time. Like there was multiple versions of that, but never just the buyer broker agreement that I could see.
Okay, I want to hop over here real quick and let's see.
Ellery, they renamed it something kind of funky, and it is hard to find. I couldn't find it either when they changed the form and put blanks in for commission amount, and
Yes.
yeah, they
And
named it
I agree. I am not a huge fan of some of the naming, but it wasn't all just me. That I didn't get to be the deciding factor on all of the naming schematic. I would like to see it a little simplified, but just to give you an idea. So this is our actual company. If I come in, let me actually hop in through a loop. I'll go in as an agent rather than an admin, so it looks more similar to what you guys will experience. So if I go into, let's hop into this one. And I need to add a document. I will click on add a document, go to my templates, and you see this all C21 and MLS forms.
Yeah.
I'll go there. Let's just see. Let's go buyer broker. So up at the top, we do have an addendum, So here's our exclusive buyer broker agreement. It's a 3% plus 295. I do not love these naming schematic, but because I don't think it's intuitive to everyone. But you can see the parenthetical here with exclusive buyer broker agreement.
Yeah,
So if I click on that one and then I hit copy and say, okay, we'll come back in my loop and we can see it's right here.
see, I think I was just doing buyer. I thought buyer would be enough information, so maybe I have to give more information to the search bar.
Yeah, yep. It's
It's that
like
EB.
the more simplified information you can put in there. Anything that might have, like I say, any punctuation, I kind of avoid. And I would rather look through a list that's, if you put in buyer broker and scroll through that list,
Mm-hmm.
you'll have a better chance of finding it within a list of a handful of documents than the whole entire company.
Gotcha.
I went in and opened this and it defaults to autofill because it is a template. And I'll just close out of that, but you can see this is here's the exclusive buyer broker agreement created by the company that is templated, so it's ready for you to set up. So hopefully that was helpful.
That was.
Okay.
They've used that abbreviation EBB for exclusive buyer broker.
Mm-hmm.
That's the easiest way to find them now.
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna just
Thank you,
for a
Ginger.
minute stop sharing so I can get back to my Dotloop video. Sorry about that. The little sharing, not sharing bar is covering my tabs across the top, so I can't just click in and out of
Once you
it.
click on templates, this new window will appear.
So this is what we
In
just
this
kind of
window,
covered.
your folders are on the left. And when you click on a folder, the documents will appear on the right. You can check off the documents that you're looking for, and you can also use the search bar to narrow down the list of documents.
So the nice thing about this too is if you need to pull in multiple documents at this point, let's say you want your buyer broker agreement, your buyer due diligence, your Century 21 buyer due diligence checklist, your wire fraud and your affiliated, you can search through this list and put a check mark and copy all of them into your loop at once. You don't have to go in and out, in and out. So another little time saving tidbit.
Once you've checked off your documents, go ahead and click copy and they'll be added to the loop. Now you can just click on one document to open it, or you can use the checkboxes on the left and use your batch open button.
This will help with autofilling as well.
The first time you open up an interactive document, we're going to be hit with this autofill window. This autofill window allows you to determine who your clients are, what role you're playing in the loop, the property address, and any other details. Now this is all coming from view details, but if I missed anything in view details, I can go ahead and click on a field and start typing that in. Once I'm ready, I'll click autofill. Everything that's in yellow has come from the autofill window. So that means 10 less fields I have to fill out here. Anything that didn't autofill, I can just click right into the text box and type in some information. Now up here at the top, you have your document editor toolbar. First, underneath file, you can save this document, print it out, or download it. On this document, I can add additional signature or initial fields or a strike through. If I need to change any information or if I exit out of the autofill window, I can recall that now. And I can also message directly from the document, show my tasks, and go through the document history. Now, if we scroll down, not only did it autofill text fields, but it also auto-assigned an initial field for my client, Susie. Now, if there's anywhere that I need to sign or initial, I can just click on the field and sign now. Because I created this document, I don't need to share it to myself to sign it. I can just go ahead and assign anywhere necessary. Now, I'm not ready to share, so I'm going to use the back button here in the top left to go back out of the document to show you how to archive and unarchive.
Well, we've gone over that already.
Let's say I didn't actually need this addendum, or I ended up with 2 of them in my loop. I can come over here to the 3 dots.
You guys pretty clear on this piece?
And
How you can archive
So
and
I'm
then
just left with the
show
necessary
archive.
documents. But if I need to bring it back, I can just click show archive.
It never shares a document it's like if I'm creating a document, it won't automatically send it to that person until I hit share, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So if I forget that, it just never happens.
It never shares. That's correct.
Okay.
So she's kind of just going
Click
a
the
little
three
bit
dots over to the
redundant
right
about the
and unarchive,
archive and unarchive.
bringing it back to life.
All right. In that segment, was that helpful? Are there any further questions that you guys have as we're going through this?
No,
Okay.
that was very helpful.
Let's see. Another thing we have here
I
is
do have a
adding
question.
okay.
I believe it would fit in this section. Is there a way to add the documents to create like a package and make a folder of my own
Yes.
under Century 21? And I was a little bit late, so I apologize if I missed that.
No, you did not miss that. Absolutely. Yes, there is. So let me hop back in here, over here in my account as an agent. And I'm just going to go back into all my loops so you can see I function the same from an agent like as you guys do. You know, I have more than probably the average bear because I think sometimes people add me to their loops. Which you don't need to add any admin to your loops. We automatically have access to loops. So if we go into templates, in here you have a personal segment. And in here you can pull and drag in anything that you want to set up as a template for yourself. Like if you went to the MLS and created, let's say, your buyer due diligence form with your name and company autofilled, you could drop it in here and go in and add all the checkbox signatures, anything that you need to add to that document, and save it in here as one of your personal templates. And you can do that with, a lot of people would probably like to do that with all of their personal buyer docs and all our personal seller documents, your basic documents. So you have them all auto-filled, ready to go. So you can simply just grab your own package from your own personal add documents section and pull that into your loops. Is that helpful?
Yes, it is very. And at that point I can name it, because I can't remember where I saw a video on it, but it was confusing. But I liked how they were able to name it, and it came in under that all Century 21 file and forms, and it was like their buyer, just a buyer package or a seller package that had all of those forms ready to go in the loop.
I'm going to see if I can quickly, I should have pulled one out. Let me see if I can quickly pull one in and show you. I'm going to do let me see. I'm going to just grab like a confirmation of earnest money and fill it out partly with my information. Let me see. Bear with me, I'm sorry.
Are you trying to share your screen and show us what
No,
you're
right
doing?
now I'm just,
Okay.
I'm quickly just creating. I didn't have a document saved out on my desktop that I could
Gotcha.
pull in. So I'm like, I'll hurry and get a document out there so I can bring it in there and show you what that looks like. Okay, there we go. Let me see if I can find one here. Let's see. It's kind of silly. I don't have. I just
2000412.
all right, let me go. Oh, geez, Louise. I'm going to pull one in from templates. That'll be quicker. So if I go into my all C21 forms, I'll grab the confirmation and copy it into here. I can open it up. And I'll put my name because it's always going to be me on this particular form if I'm the one providing it. And save. You can click up here in this dark blue bar across the top and rename. So like you guys had mentioned, some of the naming I'm not a huge fan of. I'm going to take that off, and there I just renamed that to be confirmation of earnest money receipt. So if I go back out, you'll see that's in there. Let's do this. I'm going to go to templates. Let's do a whole buyer packet. And we'll go, let's see. Let's do from all C21 forms, I'm going to go buyer, broker. And so it's this one we decided, which kind of goofy. So if I click in here, you'll see it's the buyer broker agreement. I don't love this naming schematic, so I can once again go up here, click on it, and rename it what I want it to be named. And I'll say this is always between me and my buyer. So this is in my personal, I'm going to save that. So we'll come back out. So right now where we've gone, let me go back into my loops. So when you typically come into Dotloop, you're going to be seeing your loops all here in a list. Anything you've been working on in a list. So if you come up and you click on templates, you'll go in and now you can go into your personal and you can see I've now saved a buyer broker agreement in there and a confirmation of earnest money in there. And I could add, like I say, any of my buyer docs I want to have in there, any of my seller docs I want to have in there that I can quickly grab and pull into a loop when I'm in a loop. If I haven't saved these from this all C21 forms into this section, I can always click into there to find a document I need. And like I say, there is every document you can imagine in there. So I can search it, but less is more as I search. So that in that way, I've created my own personal set of templated documents. Is that helpful?
Yes.
Okay. Typically,
Yes, thank you very much.
you bet. Typically, that's a little bit advanced, but typically, as you're just starting out, you'll be going in to your loop, and when you go click that add document, right here's where you'll find the whole midgemodge of every form you can think of. And like I say, that's when you can select to click into your personal and have your own personal setup named how you can quickly search them. Your most regularly used documents in your own personal little template section. So,
Hey, Ellery.
yes.
So I forgot to tell, if everyone on here will just throw in first and last name and your office in the chat box, so I have a record of who was here, I would appreciate it. And then also the sound is a little bit soft. Will you go to wherever your controls are and click on where it says more and make sure you selected the share computer sound?
Yes.
Do you see where I'm talking
Is
about?
that better?
It's
No,
actually
you
on the-
sound fine. It's just
Oh.
it was the video, yeah. So
Okay.
Yes,
It was
thank
just a
you.
little
I
soft.
wasn't sure if it was my volume or not too. Thanks.
Sorry,
nope,
guys.
so we'll check it and see now. No worries.
All right. So hopefully that's helpful there. I love having like the video to follow along with to keep me on task in the right way, but let's kind of we'll do our own thing from here on. So you've come into Dotloop, and you've said, I'm going to add a loop, and we're going to name it either your client name or the property address. And as you start to search it, it will usually Google Maps and find what you're looking for. Sometimes it doesn't exist just yet on new builds and whatnot. You can select that. We continue on, and this is the part where you can select a template that I was saying in our company. We have new listing or a buyer under contract, which are the two that you're going to use the very most often. This new listing blank loop does not have any of the templates. They're very useful, so I would suggest that you do use either the new listing or, in this case, the buyer under contract rather than the blank loop. I'll do a listing loop just so that we can kind of see all of the placeholders. When I say continue, right here, I could upload a photo if I had a picture of my clients, picture of the property, whatever you want to upload there. And then here we say done, and here is my loop. So now I can view my loop. Now when I go in, you see how it has these light gray placeholders in here? These aren't actual documents, and if you click on them, they're not going to do anything. They're merely placeholders. But let me go ahead and add a document. You can, if you select email, and I like as if I had one of my clients fill the paperwork out and email it back to me, and it's sitting in my email, I can click on that add from email and say copy to clipboard. Now this specialty email here has been added to my clipboard. So then I just click back over to my email, go into the email with the documents, hit forward and paste this email into the send to line and hit send, and it will show up in here. I can browse, which what this would do is it takes me to my downloads, my desktop, whatever area on your computer you might have a document saved out to. And you could go in and find that and select and say, okay, open and add that document. And now I can open and look, and I just pulled a document in. If I go back out, I'll show you the difference between here. You should be able to see the documents and the placeholder. Whoops, I went too far. So you see how these are light gray and this one's darker like black. This one is an actual document and these are just placeholders. So this is, I'll drag it down here. And another thing, you can drag documents between folders. All you do is you hover over it, click and hold, and you can drag them and put them into a different folder. Or you can rearrange them within the folder they're in. This is one reason I said it's really nice to use the folders that have the placeholders. Let's say this is my confirmation of earnest money, but it shows up with a funky name. I can just get a hold of that and I can drag and drop it on top of that confirmation. And you see how it says replace with an earnest money deposit, replace this with the earnest money deposit report. I'm still holding down on my left click. I just hover and I let go, and it renamed that document confirmation of earnest money receipt, just like the placeholder. Now when I open and look at it, it's still that document, but it's been renamed. Also here, I can click on this if I want to rename here, just like I showed you early. So it's my confirmation of earnest money receipt number 1. So I'll come back out of that document by hitting my little blue back arrow. And another way I can
Did it automatically save that change?
Yes. If you change it when you're in the document and just hit enter, it will stay. But let's say I want to rename it. Another way is I can come over to these 3 little dots to the right-hand side of the document. This gives me the option to open, rename, make a copy, look at the history. I can print it, I can download it, and I can archive it. I can even fax the document from here. So what I was going to do was rename it. So now it's got my cursor sitting in there, and I can move my cursor around with my arrow keys or clicking around with my mouse. And I can rename that document and hit enter, and it's now renamed. So that's one way you can rename documents. Is that helpful, or am I going too quick or throwing too many different angles?
No, that's helpful.
Okay, so let's go back to circle back to the add document. The other thing that we were talking about was from templates. I want you to really get used to your all C21 and MLS forms. That's where you're going to default automatically until you build out your own little personal segment. But in here, let's say I'm representing a seller, so I want an exclusive right to sell. I'm just going to go exclusive right. And you can see it's going to bring up a lot of options in here. Like was mentioned earlier. Once again, I don't love the naming schematic of all this in front of it, but maybe we can get that cleaned up at a later date. If I see this little gray slider, if I hold and I drag that up and down, I can see every document in here that has the name exclusive right to sell in its title. But I'm going to go with this 6% 295. So I've got my exclusive right to sell. Let's say I want my wire fraud document. And I'm doing this for a seller. So I'm going to say wire fraud alert dash for seller. And let's say I also want the affiliated business disclosure. I'm going to select that one and then I'm going to hit copy. So as you can see, it just imported all three of those documents into my loop. So I'll say okay. And when I come in here, you can see, remember we were in the templates. I imported those in from templates and now here they are. Hopefully that gives you a good view of the light gray placeholders versus the black actual documents. I'll click on add documents again just to close that field. Because I don't like how this is named, I'm going to hover over it, click and hold and drag it on top of exclusive right to sell. It renamed it. At the same time, it put it in a better order. And then my wire fraud alert, I don't like the additional verbiage, so I'm going to click and hold. I'm going to drag it and set it on top of wire fraud. And it now renamed and put it in order. And then I'm going to do the same with my affiliated. I'm going to drag and I'm going to drop it on top. And now I have my affiliated. And so you can see this is starting to take a nice organized look. So I can see I still need my MLS
This
input.
is why I was struggling.
Yeah.
Because I was when it said Repsy, I was trying to click on that Repsy for 45 years and it would never work. I'm like, well, this makes sense now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was a placeholder. Yeah. So another nice thing, because we imported these from that all MLS Z21 forms, these are interactive documents, they're templates. So I can put a check mark in this top box to open all of these. Where's my little open thing? Come on. Oh, that's so strange. Okay, I'm used to working as an admin. Ignore some of the things I say. Sorry about that. So when I get ready to open my exclusive right to sell, it's going to ask if I want this auto-filled. Normally, I will say go ahead and autofill if I have filled in information on this loop. Right now, I don't have a whole lot filled in on it. So let me show you what we do before you open to autofill your documents. So when you created your loop and set it up, and we named it with the address and everything, it created a header and gave it, gave it the name. And we brought in our documents. I want to go down here to this very important section right here, the people section. And here is where we want to add the people that we're going to be working through this transaction with. The people that you would want to add would be your seller or your buyer, depending who you're representing, your title officer, your if you're representing the buyer, the lender, and you'll want to add names and emails for everyone. The key here is when you add a person, let's say you have 2 sellers in a loop, they each have to have their own email address. They cannot share the same email address. For them to have full signing rights, they each have to sign from their own email. So just kind of to keep that as a side note for future reference, because that you'll run into issues if you try to use the same email. So here we're going to go add a person, and I'll pretend I am, let's say, E is my first name. Or wait, full name here, E Brown. And I'm going to use what is our company email at c21harvest.com. And my role is I'm going to be the seller as E Brown. And you see when this opens up, you can fill in additional information here. It's not required for this to be functional, but you can add in if you want to add their phone number, their zip code, any of this information here. You'll notice right here, there's this add to my team button, this little box. Do not add people to your team unless there's someone who should be acting as you. For instance, if you have a personal assistant, or if you have a transaction coordinator, or possibly if you're co-brokering with another agent, you know, like you're a team, you can add one another to the team. But you do not add any of your buyers, your sellers, your title, your lender, anyone else to the team, because what that does is it gives that individual full access to modify and change your documents. And you want to keep that something that you have that capability and an assistant has that capability. So do not add to the team for most people. So I filled in first, last name, an email for that individual, and I'm going to add that person. So now that's getting our people section. And if I had multiple sellers, I could add them in at this time. Then the other thing I want to show you what to do before you get ready to use an interactive document is come up here and you can go to your view details. I like to think of my view details page as all the information that pertains to this transaction. And in here, I can say this is going to be an active listing right now. You can select to use a custom name or use your property address. Down here in this property address, when I created the loop, it filled all of my information minus my MLS ID or my MLS number or my tax ID. You can add those pieces. As a matter of fact, as office admin, when you submit, it will require you to add an MLS number or say non-MLS. In here, you can put your expiration date, your list date. Let's say today, it's going to be my list date. I'm going to make my expiration date. Let's make it July 6th. And I'm listing for 450. If I had homeowners association information, my agreement date, I'm going to say was yesterday. We don't yet have, oh, this is for my contract. Let's ignore that one just yet. And this will be also when you go under contract. You can fill in purchase, sales price, all this information. If you want to put year built, let's go 7-bedroom, 5,000 square feet, all of that kind of stuff, and then hit save. So now all of this information is set up to autofill when I go into a document. So like I said, what you can fill in on this page can be very helpful for your interactive documents later on. So let's go right back up here, back into my loop. And I'm going to go ahead and open my exclusive right to fill. And because I told it, never mind, don't autofill earlier, it didn't autofill. So now I can go back up and say, let's autofill it. I want seller one to be E Brown. I want the listing agent to be me, Ellery Brown, and autofill. And then I can come in here and fill in my dates and fill in my address information. And as you look at this, you can see it's already with that seller signature can be signed by E Brown, my seller's name. That's set up throughout. And right here, this is ready where I can sign it right now because I'm in as myself. And when I share this, my seller will have the capability to do that same thing. They'll be able to go in and adopt and sign with their own signature. I could put in the date here. Let's say today's we said we did this yesterday, February 2021. This is E. Brown, my seller, and Hillary Brown. And we're going to expire this. I think I said something like July 6th, 2021. And this is autofilling incorrect because this property should have set my property in there. Good thing for me to find. This is something I'll get to fix today. This one's defaulted to a 6% with a $2.95 brokerage fee because when I selected it out of the template, that's what template, which one I selected. And I'm going to offer a 3% BAC with a 6-month protection period. And I pulled all this information from, let's see. I need to add a checkbox. I went up here to my ad and selected checkbox. And I'm going to say I selected it from, let me move this one down a little bit. Come on. Ah, it's not letting me move it now. I got it from county records. And there are not going to be, I don't have any addenda with this, so there's are not attachments. And my seller is not a foreign person. And then I can fill in their information here if I so desire. And when I share it to them, they'll have the ability to sign here. So now if I hit save and share, it's going to come up and say, okay, do I want to share this with my seller, E. Brown? These 4 fields are assigned to this individual and they can sign it. An important thing to note here is when you're going to share, you need to pay attention to how you're sharing it. In this case, I don't want them to fill anything out. I just want them to go through initial and sign and read and talk to me with any questions. Let's say if this were my listing input and I would want them to be able to fill in some spaces or maybe seller's disclosures, I can say they can fill and sign it, meaning they can check and fill in things, fill in text box, add check mark, checks and check mark boxes, that kind of thing. Or the one other option is they can edit in private, meaning they could go in and change some of the terms and things that I've put in place. Typically, that's not a status you'll use. Usually you're either can sign, can fill and sign, or in the case if I was sharing this over to an agent, like I'm presenting an offer to them, I would send it as a view only. And then if I'm going to send it as a view only, an important little tool, I know that it's telling me, wait, but this person needs to sign. I can attach as a PDF, and that will attach it to their email as a PDF, not send it just as a Dotloop document. But I usually use that when I'm sharing that to somebody for them just to receive the document. Typically, if I'm going to send it as can sign or can fill and sign, I don't attach as a PDF. I want it to be a Dotloop document, and then I'll hit share. And it says it's now been shared, it's waiting on others, and I can say, okay, done. So now it's been sent over to my email. I'm gonna hop into my other screen, go in my email and sign it, and then you'll be able to see if it comes very quickly. I don't know, it might take it a minute, but I was gonna go through and sign so you could see once I sign it, over there, you'll see that it will then have my signature in this document. But it's not coming back yet. Oh, there we go. Possibly. I don't know. It's not coming through quickly. I don't want to waste too much time waiting on that. So anyhow, that's getting our documents into our loop. Those are the various ways you can do it. Just to recap quickly, that add document, you can pull it in for templates, which templates are great. We've kind of spent a minute in there. You can browse on your computer, find it and pull it in, or you can send it directly from an email. But keep in mind, it does have to be a PDF if you email it in. So it has to be a PDF attachment. So any more questions with that stuff, that type of thing? No?
I do have one question.
Okay.
Again, I apologize if I missed this earlier, but what's your recommendation on naming your loops? Do you name them under your client name and then there's a loop for each property under their name, or is it better to list it under each property?
So what you want to do in Dotloop, what's helpful for us as admin, is when you create your loop, like let's say if you're representing buyers, and so obviously you may not have a property address yet, you could name that loop with their name, with your client's name. And then you go through the process, you find a property, you go under contract, and you pull the purchase contract in there. At that time, what I would suggest is you then go to the view details page, and you then fill in this property address section based on the property that you're under contract on, and hit save. And you can actually say at that point, you could change this. Okay, so let me just show you quickly. Let's say I have this named E Brown because that was my seller's name. But then we went under contract on this property here. I'm going to clean it up a little bit just to show you. I added my MLS number, added the information, and then I went down and I hit save. Well, you'll see my name of my loop is still E Brown, but now I'm under contract, so I want to tie that to the property. I can come in here and say use property address and hit save, and it renames it with the property address. So as an office, we prefer to see property address with city, state, and zip. For your own purposes, you can keep that named your client's name until you find the property that you can rename it to that property. Also, let's say you are working with buyers. This is just another little side note. And we know how it is out there right now. You might end up sending out 6 different offers before you end up under contract on one. What you can do is you can add a folder, and let's see, this is ABC property. And you can put all of the offers from that first property in here. Well, that one really it never came to fruition. You never went under contract. So you can go again later and add another folder. And this one is, and I just clicked on it to rename it, 123 property. So in this one, we ended up going under contract. Well, if I have documents in here that I'm ready to submit to the office, then when I come up here, and this is something we haven't covered that's highly important, and I hit submit for review, always make sure you select the folder name that you want to send in. So the folder that has the accepted offer in it. Let's pretend it would be this one, this 123 property, and it's now a seller or a buyer that's gone under contract. So I'm going to submit that for review. So that now you can see says it's in OA under contract coordination. That means it's been sent over to our office administrator who handles all of the under contract. I'm going to go ahead and send another file here. Let's say I represent a seller and I have listing documents I need to turn into the office. The important thing with listing is if you have broker load and you're ready to turn it live that day, you need to turn it live and submit your paperwork. If you rely on the company to turn that live for you, have everything ready, queued up in the MLS, ready to be turned live, and then you'll go ahead and submit for review. I'm going to quickly just add a little, I didn't tell our listing coordinator that I was going to send her this, so I'm going to just add test in front of that so she knows this is just a training loop. But I'm gonna go ahead, I wanna submit my listing documents because I'm now ready for the office to turn it live. I went on the MLS, I input all my information, I uploaded my photos, and I hit save as unfinished. I have all my signed documents in Dotloop. So I'm gonna submit it and hand it off to our listing coordinator for her to turn it live. I'm going to hit submit for review, select my folder that is listing documents, and I wanna send that to active listing. So I come over here, hit the caret, the little blue drop down, say active listing and say submit for review. And you can see that one now has been sent to OA listing coordination. So our listing coordinator will now know she needs to go and find that property saved out as unfinished on the MLS and get it turned live for you. In this case, our under contract coordinator will receive this and go, okay, we have a property under contract. I need to enter that internally and be prepared for us to receive our earnest money, to receive a title check when it finalizes, and all of that kind of great stuff. Is that helpful for everyone?
Yes,
Yeah.
very much. Thank you.
Any questions so far? Have I missed some major points right now?
You've already answered a ton for me, so
Okay. I love to have my little video to follow along. I can't find the one I used to use. They pulled it off of Dotloop, so I'm winging it a little bit. I apologize. But I hope I've hit signing, setting up your loop, setting up people in the loop, bringing documents in, setting up documents, sharing documents. Can't think of it. And one big one that I probably have not reiterated enough today is this submit for review button up here. That one is super, super key for getting things done in your file. The office doesn't know that you have a contract or have an addendum to your contract or have signed seller's disclosures unless you submit for review. So it's
should
super.
you be doing that after anytime a document gets completed?
I would say, yes, you can do it. Anytime a document is completed, anytime, especially if the document is changing any kind of terms like your settlement deadline, your purchase price, any parties to the contract, anything like that that we would need to update internally. The other thing is if you just went under contract and you know your buyer's going to be dropping off earnest money or sending earnest money via the Earnest app, you want to submit this so we have it queued up, ready to go, so we have a place to connect that earnest money to.
Gotcha.
On the list side, once again, anytime you're ready to either have the office turn a listing live, maybe make a change on the MLS, a price change, or if you're changing BAC, if you're extending the deadlines of the expiration on the MLS, anything like that, you'll want to submit that to active listing. So our listing coordinator knows she needs to do those changes or turn it live. And once again, if you're one of the people that you have broker load and you manage your own MLS pieces, it's key that you submit your documents whenever you've turned something live or you're ready for a change to occur on the MLS, because we can then make sure that everything's syndicating correctly out in the world. So 2 key points: always submit for review. You can't over submit, so you don't need to worry about over submitting. Just whenever changes occur, submit for review. Some people, when they're right at the end of their file and they maybe have a PR in there that's not been reviewed, or 1 or 2 documents, they'll submit and say, hey, I'm about to close. Will you review and make sure everything's ready to go? And we'll hop in there and go through and add tags. Another thing.
Ellery, can you
Yes.
cover that send earnest request at the top?
I can, it's a different system, but yes, let me explain. So we have an app that you download. It's the Earnest, it's Earnest, EARNNEST, the Earnest app. And basically, if you download that app on your phone, what you can do is you get connected to our company, to Century 21 Everest, when you go and set up this app. This is completely separate from Dotloop, but they have this nice integration. So if you're set up with that app, you can go right here and go send an earnest request. And I haven't done it through Dotloop, to be honest, but if you go in here, it will open up and prepare, and you'll put in your client's email address, your client's information, and it will send them and the amount, it sends them the request. They then on their end, they'll receive the request on their end, and they'll put in their banking information, and I guess just verify the amount. I don't think they re-enter the amount. And it's $15 charge for them to send their funds. It's an ACH. It's like swiping your debit card basically. And it then automatically drops those funds back to our trust. So really handy and great way to get earnest money, like to receive or send, sent over to the brokerage, especially if you have a client that's logistically, maybe out of state, relocating
great.
or something like that.
It's great for millennials who don't have a checkbook.
Yes. Yes.
That's where I've used it, is millennials who don't have a checkbook and have never had a checkbook, and
Yep.
and their bank is out of state, and yeah.
It's definitely, it can be a little bit challenging or a little bit scary for maybe somebody who's not super technical, or doesn't completely trust the process of using technology to send large amounts of money. But it can be very, very helpful for people who are like, I just really don't want to go dragging out and drive, to the office or wherever and get that. Or, if you're representing someone down in, I don't know, South County and you're up in the north end of Utah, it's useful that way too. So just to get monies collected and sent to our trust, it's very helpful. So that's that. But that's a different, I would have to send you the links to set up that app. So if anybody needs that, we can definitely get that over to you. Completely different system, but they've integrated, which is really handy. Any other questions as we're looking? Have I missed anything really obvious? Well, I thought of one thing. So you'd asked earlier about naming the loop and how to approach that. I would say when you're representing a seller, I always keep in mind the loop is tied to an address. So when you're representing a seller, you will have one loop that you put your listing paperwork in, and then folders for each offer that comes to that loop. So a separate folder for each offer that you receive on that property. And if you're representing buyers, you can have one loop that you have multiple folders for each offer. But then let's say you end up going under contract down here with this chunk of paperwork on this particular property address. You can always just either, if you click on these, it closes that folder. You can't really tell on these that are empty. I'll do it on this one that has documents. So this was our offer that we ended up not going under contract. So I can just collapse it by clicking on it. That closes the folder basically. And I can drag it down and put it at the bottom so it's not right up at the top. But later on, if there's ever a question or I need to go back to that file and find if there was any documentation that was overlooked or needed, I click it back open and my documents are all sitting right there. And so I would do that. Okay, this one we didn't go under contract. I'll put it down at the bottom. This one we didn't go under contract. I'll just drag it down to the bottom. But all my contract paperwork is here on the one that we actually went under contract. And this is the one I'm going to continue to submit to the office and have them review and look at the documentation. This is the one I'll continue to upload my new documents into. That's why it's useful to name each of your folders, when you have multiple folders in the file, something different. Whether it be an address or the client or the person on the other side that you're working with, something like that. Any other questions, comments on that?
No, that has been very helpful for me. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I feel like I've been a little bit scattering, not completely on track, but hopefully I've answered some questions. If you guys ever have further questions or would like, any more assistance, feel free to reach out. Any one of our staff is more than happy to help and advise to the best of our abilities. So don't hit your head against a wall, reach out. One of us is more than happy to help you. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks so much for coming and being part of the training today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ellery.
All right.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You bet. And once again, let me know if you guys ever hit a hard point. I'm more than happy to be here. We do have our TC department. I'll throw in a little plug there. I manage our TCs. They're awesome. They're amazing. If you look at all this and go, it's just not for me, you can always send their paperwork over their way and they'll run and manage your transaction for you. So, all right, guys, thank you so much. And
Thank
we
you.
will see you again the next round.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, Hillary.
You
Awesome.
bet. Okay, bye-bye.